Welcome to World General Curiosities, the channel where every video is a journey through the most intriguing places on Earth. Here, we don't just talk about countries. We uncover hidden stories, surprising facts, and details that almost no one tells you. The kind of curiosities that completely change the way we see the world. And today's destination is one of the most intense, complex, and fascinating places on the planet. A country small in size, yet enormous in history, faith, conflict, science, and global influence. Get ready to discover 30 curiosities about Israel, a place where three religions meet, where the desert blooms, where an ancient past coexists with cutting-edge technology, and where every corner carries a story that feels almost unbelievable. Put on your headphones, open your mind, and come explore the world with us. Curiosity 1. A tiny country with a giant impact. Israel covers just 20,770 square kilometers, ranking around 150th among the world's largest countries. To put that into perspective, it is smaller than many individual states in the United States. Yet this small piece of land exerts a geopolitical, religious, scientific, and cultural influence far greater than its size would suggest. Israel proves that on the world stage, relevance is not defined by territory, but by history, strategic position, and the power to innovate. Curiosity 2. Over 9 million people in a limited space. Despite its compact territory, Israel is home to more than 9 million people, placing it among the most densely populated nations on Earth. This concentration of people in such a small area creates constant challenges in housing, urban mobility, water resources, security, and territorial planning. Every square meter of the country carries strategic importance. In Israel, space itself is a precious asset. Curiosity 3. The deep meaning of the name Israel. The name Israel comes from Hebrew and means one who struggles with God, or man who wrestles with God. It originates from the biblical story of Jacob, who, after wrestling with an angel, received this new name. Interestingly, that meaning mirrors the country's own trajectory. A nation shaped by resistance, conflict, faith, survival, and constant existential challenges. Israel is, in many ways, a living reflection of its own name. Curiosity 4. Jerusalem. Declared capital, but not universally recognized. Since 1950, Israel has declared Jerusalem as its capital. However, much of the international community still recognizes Tel Aviv as the diplomatic capital, where most foreign embassies remain. This disagreement already reveals how politically sensitive Jerusalem is. The city is not just an administrative center. It is a symbolic heart of historical, religious, and territorial disputes that resonate far beyond its borders. Curiosity 5. The most contested city in the world. Within just a few square kilometers, Jerusalem concentrates the spiritual centers of three major world religions. For Jews, it is the site of the ancient Temple of Solomon and the Western Wall. For Christians, it is where the crucifixion, death, and resurrection of Jesus took place. For Muslims, it is home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. No other city on earth carries such an intense overlap of faith, identity, and power. Curiosity 6. The partition that changed the Middle East. In 1947, the United Nations proposed dividing Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan. Arab countries and the Palestinian leadership rejected it. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was officially born. The very next day, 5 Arab nations invaded the new country, triggering the first Arab-Israeli war. Israel survived, won the conflict, and even expanded its territory beyond what the original UN plan had granted. From that moment on, a conflict was set in motion, one that continues to shape the Middle East to this day. Curiosity 7. The tragedy of Palestinian refugees. With the end of the war in 1949, the West Bank came under Jordanian control. Gaza fell under Egyptian administration. Jerusalem was divided. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced from their homes. One of the longest-lasting humanitarian crises of the modern era was born. The issue of Palestinian refugees, still unresolved more than 70 years later. Curiosity 8. The war that redrew the map in 6 days. In 1967, Israel faced Egypt, Syria, and Jordan in what became known as the Six-Day War. In less than 1 week, Israel captured the West Bank and East Jerusalem, Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula, the Golan Heights. Israel's territory nearly doubled. But this victory came with lasting consequences. Millions of Palestinians began living under occupation, intensifying both the political and humanitarian dimensions of the conflict. Curiosity 9. External peace, internal conflict. In 1979, Israel signed a historic peace treaty with Egypt, returning the Sinai Peninsula in exchange for official recognition. In 1994, Jordan followed the same path, but peace with neighbors came at a high internal cost. Egyptian President Anwar Sadat was assassinated by extremists. In 1995, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, a key advocate of dialogue with the Palestinians, was murdered by a Jewish extremist. The conflict does not divide only peoples and nations. It fractures the societies involved from within. Curiosity 10. A city destroyed and rebuilt dozens of times. Jerusalem is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. Over more than 3,000 years, it has been ruled by Hebrews, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Crusaders, Ottomans, and the British. It has been completely destroyed at least twice. Each civilization left its mark, turning Jerusalem into a living mosaic of cultures, faiths, and conflicts, a place where past and present collide every single day. Curiosity 11. The holiest site in Judaism. The most sacred place for Jews in Jerusalem is the Western Wall, the last remaining structure of the Second Temple, which was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70 AD. It stands on the same site where the Temple of Solomon once existed, centuries earlier, before being razed by the Babylonians. Millions of people visit the wall every year to pray, weep, give thanks, and make requests. One powerful tradition is placing small notes with wishes and prayers between the stones. Twice a year, these papers are carefully removed and buried on the Mount of Olives, in accordance with the Jewish custom of never discarding sacred texts. The wall is not just a historical monument. It is a living bridge between modern Judaism and its ancient roots. Curiosity 12. The Temple Mount, the most sensitive place on earth. Just a few square meters carry an unprecedented symbolic weight. The Temple Mount. For Jews, it is the site of the ancient temples and the place where, according to tradition, the divine presence once dwelled. For Muslims, it is home to Haram al-Sharif, which includes the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, from where Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven. Today, a fragile status quo is in place. Muslims may pray freely. Jews may visit but not pray. Security is controlled by Israel. Any change to this balance can ignite waves of violence. The Temple Mount is not merely a religious site. It is the emotional epicenter of the conflict. Curiosity 13. A sacred city for 3 religions. Jerusalem is sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims at the same time, something unique on the planet. For Jews, it is the spiritual center of the chosen people. For Christians, it is the stage of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. For Muslims, it is the 3rd holiest site in Islam. No other city in the world bears such a profound overlap of faith. That is why Jerusalem is not just a disputed territory. It is a global symbol of identity, power, and spirituality. Curiosity 14. Where Jesus was buried. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the Old City is believed to be the place where Jesus was crucified, buried, and resurrected. It is simultaneously administered by several Christian denominations: Roman Catholics, Greek Orthodox, Armenians, Copts, Syrian Orthodox, along with an Ethiopian presence in adjacent areas. To prevent disputes, something remarkable happens. The keys to the church are held by a Muslim family, a tradition maintained for centuries as a symbol of neutrality. The church reflects Jerusalem itself in miniature, a sacred space shared by many where faith and tension coexist every day. Curiosity 15. A language that came back to life. Israel is the only country in the world that turned a sacred language into a national one. For centuries, Hebrew was used only in religious texts. With the return of Jews to the region, the need for a common language emerged. Hebrew was revived and brought back into daily life. Today, It is spoken in schools, streets, businesses, and public institutions. It is considered one of the greatest achievements in modern linguistics, a liturgical language that returned to life as a fully functional, living tongue. Curiosity 16. 3 languages, 3 identities. In addition to Hebrew, Arabic holds official status in Israel, reflecting the presence of Arab-Israeli communities. English, although not a national language, is widely used in technology, science, and diplomacy. Each language represents something larger. Hebrew, identity and historical continuity. Arabic, cultural diversity and Palestinian presence. English, global connection. In Israel, language is not just communication. It is a political and cultural symbol. Curiosity 17. A country shaped by military service. In Israel, military service is mandatory. Men, about 3 years. Women, about 2 years. This makes the army an integral part of civilian life. Young people enter the armed forces while still forming their personal identities, facing intense experiences of responsibility and risk. Military service becomes a rite of passage and shapes society with a strong sense of belonging, preparedness, and resilience. Curiosity 18. Women on the front lines. Israel was one of the first countries in the world to integrate women into operational military roles. They serve in areas such as intelligence, technology, defense, command. This deeply influenced the nation's culture, making the presence of women in leadership positions and high-level technical roles a normal part of everyday life. Curiosity 19. The martial art created to survive. It was in this context that Krav Maga was born. Unlike traditional martial arts, it does not seek aesthetics or competition. Its sole purpose is simple: neutralize real threats with maximum efficiency. Created by IMI Lichtenfeld to protect Jewish communities in Europe, the system was later adopted by the Israeli military as its official hand-to-hand combat method. Krav Maga reflects the country's mindset: direct, pragmatic, and focused on survival. Curiosity 20. Tel Aviv, the other face of Israel. While Jerusalem represents faith and tradition, Tel Aviv symbolizes modernity and freedom. The city is cosmopolitan, young, vibrant, and diverse. Its beaches reflect that diversity. Areas for ultra-Orthodox Jews, a dog beach, a gay beach, sports and family zones. Tel Aviv is considered one of the most LGBTQIA+ friendly cities in the world and hosts one of the largest pride parades on the planet. It shows that Israel is not only a land of conflict, but also a place where plurality, urban culture, and a global lifestyle flourish. Curiosity 21. The Torah as a foundation of a civilization. At the heart of Jewish identity stands the Torah, which corresponds largely to the Old Testament of the Christian Bible. It is not merely a religious book. It is a moral, cultural, and spiritual foundation of the Jewish people. The Torah shapes customs, laws, rituals, calendars, and even the way the world is interpreted. In Israel, its influence is present in synagogues, families, holidays, and even in public life. More than faith, it represents historical continuity, a people that survived for millennia guided by the written word. Curiosity 22. When a scientist was invited to be president. In 1952, only a few years after its founding, Israel offered the presidency to Albert Einstein. The physicist declined, explaining that he had always dealt with numbers and theories, not politics or human relations. Even so, the gesture itself is revealing. A newly created nation inviting a scientist to lead it symbolizes how deeply knowledge and intellect are valued in Israeli society. Curiosity 23. A small people with a giant intellectual impact. Jews and people of Jewish descent account for nearly 20% of all Nobel Prize winners, despite representing a tiny fraction of the world's population. This is tied to deep cultural factors. Encouragement of study from childhood, a tradition of debate and interpretation, knowledge seen as a form of historical survival. In Israel, thinking, questioning, and learning are not optional. They are part of national identity. Curiosity 24. The Silicon Valley of the Middle East. Israel is home to more than 6,000 startups and ranks among the world's leading technological powers. Major companies such as Google, Intel, Apple, Microsoft, and Meta maintain research centers in the country. Israeli innovations include the modern firewall, contemporary drone technology, advances in computer processors, the cherry tomato, the electric epilator, cutting-edge medical technologies. With no abundance of natural resources, Israel invested in human capital and won. Curiosity 25, how the Army fuels innovation. Technological units within the Israeli Armed Forces train young people in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, data engineering, defense systems. After completing their service, many of these veterans go on to create startups. In practice, the military has become one of the most powerful technology incubators in the world. Curiosity 26, making the desert bloom. A large portion of Israel is arid, especially the Negev Desert. Even so, the country became a global reference in agriculture. Its greatest contribution was drip irrigation, a system that minimizes waste and maximizes productivity. With science, sensors, biotechnology, and advanced water management, Israel proved that even the desert can be transformed into a source of life. Curiosity 27, a nation that recycles water. Israel leads the world in water reuse. Treated wastewater is used in agriculture. Desalination plants turn seawater into drinking water. Consumption is monitored scientifically. The country's survival depends on intelligent management of every single drop. In Israel, water is not taken for granted. It is engineered, protected, and respected. Curiosity 28, a military power wrapped in mystery. Israel maintains one of the most sophisticated armed forces on earth. When it comes to nuclear weapons, the country follows a policy of strategic ambiguity. It never confirms and never denies. Experts estimate that Israel may possess between 80 and 400 nuclear warheads. In 1979, an event known as the Vela incident may have been a secret nuclear test. The mystery itself is part of deterrence. Curiosity 29, for seas in a tiny country. Israel is bordered by 4 seas: the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the Dead Sea, the Sea of Galilee. The last 2 are actually historic lakes. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth, with salinity so high that no one can sink. But it is disappearing. Its level drops by about 1 meter every year. Curiosity 30, where faith, science, and conflict converge. The Sea of Galilee is Israel's largest freshwater reserve and a central setting in the life of Jesus. Within just a few kilometers, Israel brings together the lowest point on the planet, one of the holiest regions in Christianity, centers of global innovation, millennia-old conflicts still active today. Israel shows that size does not define relevance. In a tiny territory, deep faith, cutting-edge science, ancient wars, and a future in the making all coexist. Israel is more than a country. It is a living crossroads between past and future. Within just a few square kilometers, it feels as if the entire world can fit. If you enjoyed these curiosities, leave a like to support the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss our next videos, and turn on the notification bell. Comment below which of these facts surprised you the most. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.